Hey everyone, welcome back to Drama Llamas of Reddit, and a special welcome to anyone who is new here. Today we have a mix of wild family drama and peak entitlement, with a whole cast of characters. From a responsible adult who followed the will to the letter, all the way to relatives who heard the word inheritance and immediately forgot how manners work, with plenty of chaos in between. I will not keep you waiting. Get comfy, grab a drink or a snack. If you are eating, enjoy your meal, and if you are driving, keep your eyes on the road. Let us get into it. My name is Claire. I am 32, and I am the kind of person who keeps receipts and calendar reminders because life is chaotic, and I refuse to be surprised by it. My grandmother used to joke that I was born 80 years old, but she also trusted me more than anyone else in the family because when I said I would do something, it got done. My grandmother was very clear about her wishes long before she got sick. She believed in planning, paperwork, and not rewarding bad behavior. She also believed that love and effort count, which is why the last years of her life were mostly the two of us. Doctor appointments, pharmacy runs, grocery lists taped to the fridge, and me sitting at her kitchen table pretending I did not notice how tired she looked when she thought nobody was watching. I lived 20 minutes away. That meant I was the one who could come over when her phone got mysteriously unplugged again. When she needed help switching insurance plans, when she forgot which pill was which because the bottles all looked the same, and when she wanted someone to just sit with her and watch old movies. Some weeks I was there every day. Other weeks it was 3 times a week, but always enough that the neighbors started greeting me like I lived there. Meanwhile, my uncle and aunt were the kind of relatives who treated visiting like a holiday tradition, meaning it happened only when it was convenient and it always came with a performance. If they did show up, they brought loud opinions, cheap flowers, and a long list of excuses. My uncle liked to say, "You know I would come more often, but work has been insane." My aunt liked to add, "I just hate seeing her like this, it is too hard." Somehow, it was never too hard to post about her on social media, though. When my grandmother passed away, I felt like someone had taken the air out of the room. I handled the funeral arrangements because nobody else volunteered, and I did it the same way I handled her care, quietly, carefully, and with a folder full of documents. I thought the hard part was over. I was wrong. A week after the funeral, my uncle started calling me at weird hours, like he had suddenly remembered my number. Then my aunt texted, "We should all meet and talk about Grandma's things." Not ask, not suggest. Announce. We met in my grandmother's old living room because my uncle insisted it was only right. He sat in her favorite chair like he owned it. My aunt perched on the couch, and I sat at the dining table with a binder, a notebook, and a grief headache that would not quit. At the first family meeting, my uncle looked at me and said, "If you do not split the inheritance, you are selfish." My aunt immediately added, "Family does not hoard money." I blinked at them because the will had not even been read yet. They were already mad about money that was still technically paperwork. The will reading happened a few days later. The lawyer did not do anything dramatic. He just opened the folder and started speaking in a calm, professional voice that made my uncle's smirk look even more ridiculous. My grandmother left me the family house and most of her savings. She left my uncle and aunt small symbolic amounts and a few specific items, like a set of old serving dishes and a watch that my uncle had once claimed he always loved. The moment the lawyer finished, my aunt's face twisted like she had bitten into something sour. My uncle leaned forward and said, "This cannot be right." The lawyer looked at him and said it was right, signed, witnessed, and legally binding. On the drive home, my phone buzzed non-stop. It was like the inheritance activated a family group chat that had been dormant for years. My aunt typed paragraphs about fairness. My uncle sent messages that started with "listen," like he was about to explain reality to me. Cousins I barely spoke to suddenly appeared like they were summoned, dropping comments like, "That is messed up," and "do the right thing." I tried to explain that the will was clear, but the guilt trips never stopped. Messages, calls, and long speeches about family unity filled my days. My uncle told me, "Your grandmother was not in her right mind at the end." My aunt said, "She would be ashamed of you." That one made me laugh out loud, which shocked me because I had not laughed in weeks. The breaking point came when my uncle showed up at my door without warning. He stood there with that tight, fake concerned expression and said, "We are not trying to fight. We just want what is fair. Split it and be done." I stared at him and said, "Fine, I will split it." His face changed instantly. The entitlement relaxed into satisfaction, like he had already spent the money in his head. My aunt started acting sweet, sending me messages with heart emojis and "thank you for being mature." It was almost impressive how quickly they switched masks. Here is what they did not understand. I never said I would split it the way they imagined. I followed the will exactly as written and did everything by the book. First, I got an estate attorney and an accountant because I had learned from my grandmother that if you want peace, you hire professionals. Then I made a list of every expense connected to the estate: property taxes, final medical bills, funeral costs that I had covered up front, the cost to clear out the house properly instead of dumping everything like my uncle suggested, repairs that had been postponed because my grandmother did not want strangers in the house while she was sick. Then I sold the house at market value because the will allowed it and I was not interested in living inside a family battlefield. My uncle tried to demand I sell it to him at a family price, which is apparently a special number that equals cheap. I told him no. When the sale went through, I paid every tax, fee, and debt connected to the estate. Every receipt went into my binder. Every payment was tracked. If someone asked a question, I could answer it with a document, a date, and a number. After all that, I distributed what remained exactly how the will stated. The will had left my uncle and aunt small symbolic amounts, and that is exactly what they received. I wrote the checks. I mailed them certified, because again, I am Claire, and I like proof. The best part was the reaction. My uncle called me screaming that the amount was insulting. He shouted, "This is it? This is what you are giving us?" My aunt tried a softer approach first, saying, "There must have been a mistake, honey." I calmly said that I had respected my grandmother's wishes, settled the estate properly, and followed the paperwork. Then I offered to email them the itemized list of expenses if they wanted to see where the money went. My uncle went quiet for a second and then snapped, "You did this on purpose." I said, "I did exactly what you told me to do. I split it fairly and legally." After that, the family group chat went completely silent. No more speeches about unity. No more heart emojis. No more cousins acting like inheritance experts. Just silence. A week later, my aunt posted a vague quote on social media about betrayal and snakes. I did not respond. I printed the screenshot and put it in my binder anyway, because I am petty, but in an organized way. Sometimes the most satisfying revenge is doing exactly what the documents say, no more and no less. If you ever want to know who in your family has been faking the "we are so close" thing, just inherit something. The masks fly off faster than a cheap wig in a hurricane. All right, now let us move on to the next story. Growing up, my younger sister was the golden child, and I do not mean that in a cute, harmless way. I mean the kind of golden child who could crash a car and still get a comforting speech, while I forgot to take out the trash once and got a lecture about personal responsibility that lasted longer than most marriages. She got help, excuses, and financial support. I got told, "You are the reliable one," which is family language for, "We are going to ask more from you and give you less." My sister had a talent for turning every mistake into a tragedy that someone else needed to fix. She would quit jobs because the manager did not respect her vibe. She would rack up credit card debt and cry about stress until my parents bailed her out. And every time my father handed her money, he would sigh and say, "She just needs a little help to get on her feet." Meanwhile, if I ever needed anything, I got, "You will figure it out, you always do." By the time we were adults, the pattern was permanent. I was the one who showed up when there was an emergency. I was the one who made calls, drove across town, handled paperwork, and paid for things quietly when my father needed help, but did not want to ask my mother. I helped cover medical bills. I fixed things around the house. I even paid back loans my father had given me because I did not like owing anyone, especially not family. Then my father got sick. My sister visited just enough to take photos for social media. She would show up with a latte, hug him, say, "I hate seeing you like this," and leave before anything uncomfortable happened, like helping. I was there for the actual work, appointments, prescriptions, insurance calls, and the kind of late-night phone conversations where someone tries to sound strong, but you can hear the fear underneath. When my father passed away, I was grieving and exhausted. The last thing I wanted was a fight. I assumed that even my sister would have the sense to behave. I was wrong. The will reading happened at a lawyer's office, and my mother was already tense before it even started. My sister looked calm, almost smug, like she was expecting the universe to finally reward her for existing. The lawyer read the will. My father left me the majority of his inheritance. It was not some giant fortune, but it was enough to matter. The will was clear about why. I had supported him financially, helped with expenses, and repaid loans. My sister was left a smaller amount. My sister's face changed instantly. She turned to me and said, "You know I need this money more than you do." Then she looked at my mother like a child asking permission to throw a tantrum. My mother, without missing a beat, told me to be the bigger person and split everything evenly. She said, "Your sister struggles, and you are stable. You do not need it as much." That was the moment I realized what they were really asking. They were not asking for fairness. They were asking me to keep playing my role, the responsible one who sacrifices so the golden child never has to learn. I took a breath and said, "Fine, I will split it." My sister relaxed like she had won. My mother looked relieved, like she had prevented a family crisis. Then I added, "But we are doing it properly. Everything connected to the estate gets handled equally first. Debts, taxes, fees, all of it. Then we split what remains." My mother barely listened. My sister definitely did not listen. They just heard the word split and decided the story was over. It was not. My father had some outstanding expenses. There were final medical bills, legal fees, and taxes tied to the estate. There was also the little detail of loans my father had taken out to help my sister over the years, the ones everyone pretended were temporary and would work themselves out. They did not work themselves out. They were still there, quietly waiting like a surprise at the bottom of a bag. My lawyer and accountant handled everything the correct way. Every debt and expense was paid from the estate, and anything that needed to be allocated was allocated fairly, exactly as I said it would be. By the time it was done, my sister's share barely covered her portion of what was owed. She did not get a windfall. She got a lesson. The day she realized it, she called me furious, yelling that I had tricked her. She said, "You knew this would happen. You did this on purpose." I let her finish and then calmly said, "You wanted everything split fairly. This is what fair looks like when you include responsibility." She screamed that I was heartless. My mother called and said I had embarrassed the family. I reminded them that nobody forced them to agree. Nobody stopped them from reading the details. They wanted the benefits of family, but they did not want the part where family comes with bills. My sister stopped speaking to me after that. My mother gave me the cold shoulder for months. The paperwork, however, still speaks very clearly. Being the bigger person is easy when the smaller person insists on ignoring math. All right, now let us move on to the third and final story. When my mother married my stepfather, I was already old enough to understand that "we are one big happy family now" was more of a suggestion than a fact. We were polite, we were civil, but we were never close. His kids did their thing, I did mine, and everyone pretended that was normal. As the years went on, that distance never really changed. Family dinners were awkward, holidays felt like separate groups sharing the same table. And when my mother got sick, the separation became even clearer. I was the one who took her to appointments. I was the one who argued with insurance companies, picked up prescriptions, and slept on a chair in her hospital room when things got bad. My stepfather said hospitals made him anxious. My stepbrother said he was not good with emotional stuff. Somehow, that still left everything on me. When my mother passed away, I was numb. I handled the arrangements because that is what I always did. I did not expect gratitude, but I also did not expect what came next. A month later, I found out that my mother had left me a rental property she owned before her second marriage. It was not a mansion, but it was solid. She had bought it years ago, managed it carefully, and used the extra income as a safety net. The will was clear. The property was mine. That clarity lasted about 5 minutes. My stepbrother called me and said, "So when do we talk about splitting the rental income?" I asked him why he thought there was anything to split. He replied, "Because we are family now." My stepfather backed him up, saying my mother would not want me to be greedy. That word again. Greedy. It always seems to appear when someone wants what is not theirs. I thought about it for a while. Then I said, "Okay, we can share it." Their attitudes changed instantly. My stepbrother started talking about how he would use the money. My stepfather mentioned how helpful the extra income would be for retirement. There was just one condition. If we were sharing everything. I met with a lawyer and restructured the ownership. I transferred partial ownership of the property to them legally. That also transferred responsibility for property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and repairs. I explained this clearly. They nodded. They did not ask questions. The first few months were quiet. Then the roof started leaking. Suddenly my phone was ringing non-stop. Repairs were expensive. The insurance deductible was higher than they expected. Property taxes went up. The rental income barely covered the costs, and sometimes it did not cover them at all. My stepbrother complained that the property was a money pit. My stepfather said he did not sign up for this level of stress. I reminded them that this was what shared ownership looked like. Things got worse when the tenant moved out and the place sat empty for a month. No income. Still bills. That was when they asked me to take full control again. They said it would be easier if I handled everything and just sent them their share. I said no. After a few more months of stress and arguments, they offered to sell their portions back to me. They were desperate. The market had not changed in their favor, and they needed out. I agreed, but only at market value, which meant they sold at a loss. I regained full ownership of the property. The bills stopped being arguments. The income became peaceful again. My stepfamily stopped calling unless absolutely necessary. I kept the property, the income, and my sanity. It turns out that free money sounds amazing until it comes with responsibility and receipts. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Thank you so much for spending your time with Drama Llamas of Reddit. I truly appreciate every view, every like, and every subscription. If you enjoyed the stories, I hope you will stick around for more. Until next time, take care and remember that paperwork never lies.